Welcome to the Husky Hockey Podcast, your number one resource to remind you that you can always heed the words of Allison Cross and say it best when you say nothing at all. And Fenton, commissioner of the NCHC, he should have said nothing at all versus the statement that he pulled out after Saturday's game, because it was absolutely ridiculous.
Diving right in.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, I suppose we should. Weldie, Andrew here, talking Huskies hockey, but you know, everybody's talking about it, so yeah, let's just get into the just absolute travesty of what happened on the ice on Saturday, at the end of the game. McLaughlin just absolutely hauls Perbix down in his own end, no call in overtime, 3-on-3, and turnover. McLaughlin's even looking around behind him like, oh, dang. And, oh, wow, there's no call. And ends up making a play over to Sammy Walker, who, I mean, Rennick had nothing he could do there. It was just, and we'll get to Fenton's comment and his little most backhanded, like, smack at St. Cloud State fans, and we'll get to that in a second. But, you know, just overall, you know, the whole series with the Gopher series and whatnot, it was a fiery series. It was pretty much everything that it was hyped up for, but God, that ending just kind of soured it. And it was just, it was tough to have a good feeling about the weekend, even though, I mean, in all intents and purposes, there's not a ton of damage done to St. Cloud.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there in that I'm very frustrated that this play is what defined what I thought was a fun weekend of hockey, both games. And, yeah, where to start? Well, first of all, it was a penalty. It was clearly a penalty. I mean, the league went on record saying as much. It was not a dive, contrary to the haughty assertion of Bob Motzko. And even if you're going to say it is a dive, the play should have been whistled dead at that point.
Like, and maybe I should have said that Motzko should have listened to Allison Cross, and then that he should have said nothing at all, because like it absolutely blew my mind that he just flat out said, first off, called him that kid, which already was just a slap in the face to somebody he recruited. And not only that, but his brother plays on the Gophers,
right,
who have obviously a parent on the team. And so in the sense, you're calling a parent of the son, you know, a parent of somebody on your team, you know, you're calling their other son a diver. And like, I would be absolutely livid. You know, and who knows, you know, if anything was said or anything along those lines. But for Motzko just to flat out call that, a couple of years ago when he was talking about how Sheehy was hauled down, and Sheehy was hauled down, and he was just saying, oh, everybody knows that was a penalty and that wasn't called. Now she was on another foot, and he's like, oh, that was a dive. And it's just, you didn't have to go that route. You know, that's just any goodwill that I actually had towards, you know, my last episode when I talked about how he left the program in a better, it's just like he just kind of reignited that fire after the end of, you know, our last podcast session when we talked about, you know, his sudden departure after Air Force. You know, this kind of just all of a sudden came back bubbling ahead, and I got so frustrated again that he would just call out our players like that. Somebody who obviously is, you know, in a 3-on-3 hockey setting, 200 feet from the goal, you know, deep in your own end, no one's going to dive in that situation. That's the thing that boggles my mind more than anything else, is that you have a chance. You have open ice in front of you. You've got the puck. You've got to step on the defender, and you have a possible 3-on-1 going the other way. And who would take a dive in that situation? Absolutely nobody would, especially if you're on the ice. The coach trusts you on a 3-on-3 format in a rivalry game, and you know you get Walker's goal and, you know, late, tie it up, and it was just it was just so frustrating that to see him hauled down and the ref just going, nope, not a call, dive. And then sure enough, it bites us just shortly after that. And just classless comments by Motzko afterwards. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, so you got that. And it happens right away in overtime, 20-some seconds in. And it is just kind of especially after the Huskies scored, about 5 minutes to go, that last 5 minutes, the best action of the weekend, I thought. And so going into overtime, now I'm at that point still scrambling because they're saying 3-on-3. So I text you, are they still, what is the overtime format, which is a yearly now, we got to do something with changing overtime rules on a yearly basis now, or it's semi-yearly basis.
You need a flow chart to follow it. Every year you need a flow chart of what's going on.
I have been a close watcher of college hockey for 20 years, more than that. And I'm not even 100% sure what exactly the actual implications of the overtime rules are. And I don't think that announcers know what the deal is. People who write about the sport for a living seem to not know. Some of them, at least, do not know. I mean, I'm reading the USCHO weekend review, and this was on there, and of course, but then another headline was Bemidji State gains a split against North Dakota. No, they didn't actually. They won in overtime the same way. And as far as I am led to believe, you told me and the other good college hockey writers have written, this does not count as a full win. Whereas in the past, when we played a 5-on-5 overtime session, an overtime goal in that first 5-minute 5-on-5 session would result in 100% of a win for the team that scored and 0% of a win for the team that lost. That's changed now. This counts as 55% of a win for Minnesota and 45% of a win for St. Cloud. If it was a tie
in the RPI,
if it was a tie, which is one of the main formulas that is used to compute the pairwise rankings, which are the rankings that are the main criterion for the committee to select the tournament field at the end of the year. The USCHO poll that we've talked about and kind of laugh about has no meaning at all.
Still Schlossman hanging on to that number one Denver, though.
Is he? I didn't check today, but yep. Well, I'm sure the route over Air Force only cements his opinion. Anyway, the pairwise is what matters for tournament purposes. A tie is 50-50. So this gained the Gophers 5 percentage points in pairwise over a roughly 40-game schedule, which is going to be the sample size for the end of the year pairwise.
In the RPI.
This is a minuscule effect on the actual game.
Because it still counts as a tie in head-to-head, and it counts as a tie in common opponents. So I think a lot of people are overlooking those two factors. So we still win the comparison head-to-head over the Gophers, and obvious for common opponents, that's going to be huge when Minnesota plays, the Michigans and our upcoming against Wisconsin.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
So in the head-to-head comparison, this goes into if you check the pairwise on CHN, it's going to say 1-0-1.
Yes.
The St. Cloud versus the Gophers. Because if you look on the standings, the overall standings, it says 4-2 for the Huskies.
Correct.
And it says 3-1
as a standings
for the Gophers.
only for an overall record, it counts as a loss, a full loss.
We're getting into my frustration here.
Indeed. 100%.
Because you're saying that some people don't understand the difference here. Josh Fenton didn't seem to understand the difference in his statement when he claimed they're only making the statement. We'll get more into this later, but I'm just using this as an example of also announcers and whatnot making too much of this. And he says, we only made this statement because of the gravity of the situation. No, this affected 5% of a win. To keep that in mind, St. Cloud would have to lose 20 overtime games to equal one full loss in pairwise. So it really doesn't matter that much. I realize from an emotional standpoint, just from a entertainment satisfaction standpoint, the game couldn't have ended on a more sour note, and that's very important. The call should not completely go ignored here. It was a gutless call. I will also say I'm wondering, and I'm almost willing to bet that the fact that overtime isn't that big of a deal is probably factored into the non-call. If this was the old rules where it's 5-on-5 and it's winner take all RPI points, he might be more willing to make that call. But because it is relatively meaningless, he might be willing to let him play at that point. Still, terrible call, full stop. Not going to let that slide. But yeah, the overtime is so convoluted. I mean, I was explaining this to my brother, and just even saying the 55-45 math aspect of it, I am confused halfway through trying to explain it. And I just have to keep it simple to say that this was essentially a tie. And from St. Cloud's perspective, one of the among the post-game comments from Motzko that I actually agreed with is that the Gophers outplayed the Huskies. And I thought the Gophers outplayed the Huskies all weekend. And I'm concerned for the Huskies standpoint that we're just going to latch on to, we were screwed. The refs, really stuck it to us there. We need to look at the game here to see how the Gophers were able to expose some of the Huskies' weaknesses and hopefully use that to improve the team going forward. And I'm wondering if this whole controversy we're losing that thread in the conversation because of this whole farce that happened after the game.
I just want to say I don't know if I would say that the Gophers really outplayed, especially on Saturday. I thought it was a fairly even contest. And
I thought the Huskies outplayed them in the first and the last 5 minutes of the third. I thought the rest of the game, the Gophers won. The Gophers played better on Friday. I thought that the Huskies really only had one 10-minute period, the first 10 minutes of the second period on Friday that they controlled the play. I thought the Huskies kind of stole one on Friday. The Huskies played better on Saturday. But I thought on the whole in the weekend,
gotcha.
A win and a quasi tie is a damn good result for the Huskies based on how they played.
Yeah, because the Gophers, especially on Saturday's game, that second period, I felt like the Huskies were just skating in mud. I mean, they looked all out of sorts, and I was thinking as that period was was moving along that, man, if we can get out of the second period tied 1-1, that'll be just huge. That'll be just a huge gift. And then about 20 seconds later, Bryce scores. And so I was like, even 2-1 after, how badly we were outplayed in the second.
And the same thing there with the third when Pert ties it up really quick. Less than a minute later, Gophers go right back ahead 3-2. It was again after that first period, which was the best period they played all weekend. The Huskies. It really was. I thought the Gophers were the better team on the ice. They impressed me this weekend. I didn't expect to see this good of a Gopher team. They're going to be a tough team to play this year. So again, I was
blown away with the Myers, Nyes, and Lucius line. I thought that line easily was the best line of the weekend. I thought they were absolutely dominant anytime that they stepped. I heard Knives' name all Saturday.
Yeah, side note, if you would have asked me before the weekend who Chaz Lucius is, I think I would have guessed he's a 70s porn star. Um, Impressive hockey player, though. And I agree, he was dynamic on the ice. And I agree with Nyes in that line. Yeah, no, they're a quality team. I thought the weak spot for them, I mean, if we can sort of meld this in, and again, we're going back and forth here. We're going to circle around the call, the controversy, and try to contextualize that within the whole weekend as well. But that Friday game was, I thought, a bit of a Duluth type game from the Huskies standpoint, where get outplayed, you convert on your turnovers. Both of the goals that the Huskies scored were based off of turnovers. The first goal was a cough up at the line by Lacombe. Crandall goes in on a breakaway and scores. The second, I'm not sure who the turnover was. Pert, give him credit. I think he looked better this weekend.
I thought he had a great weekend. After
he got off to a rough start. He got off to a rough start on Friday. He took another bad penalty right away. But after that, I thought he looked much better, and obviously getting his first goal on Saturday. So he starts transition on that second goal. Mason Salquist, another game winner, second week in a row. He's got the what turns out to be the game-winning goal. Mason Salquist, I should say, cue scary music, 21-year-old freshman. So yeah, and then the Huskies withstand a late charge by the Gophers in the third. They nearly tie it up. Kind of had an open net opportunity in the last seconds that they whiff on. And like I said, I think you kind of stole one there. And I thought for the weekend, I thought the player that was the weakest link for the Gophers up until that last 5-minute stretch on Saturday was LaFontaine. I was expecting more out of him. I thought he was kind of shaky. Pretty juicy on the rebounds. The Salquist goal was a bit of a bleeder. Not much you could do on the breakaway goal on Friday, but I wasn't overly impressed with him, and kind of he's got a lot of hype coming into the season, and he did step up that last 5 minutes after the Huskies tied it on Saturday. They had their other sustained run of pressure basically that last 5 minutes, and he made some very good saves to bring the game to overtime. It was just, and even though I think that the Huskies were all played both nights, I thought it was a very intense series. Clearly the atmosphere on Saturday, the homecoming, the full house, and the throwback jerseys and all that played to the Huskies' advantage. And it would have been I wish I was there. I remember those nights, and obviously coming off a season where we didn't have any fans, it was very nice to see such a raucous atmosphere in the building. And again, all of that, kind of summarizing the whole weekend, we all sort of lose all those little fine points and niceties, details of the game, and all sort of is dominated by this overtime call. That's what's frustrating to me.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Friday's game. The main Big Ten YouTube channel had the highlights, and the first comment about an hour after the video was loaded. It's tough sometimes to beat teams that have grown men on their team rather than college kids. But that's how teams like St. Cloud State, S-A-T-E, as he spelled it, and others like them recruit to win games. Keep working, boys. A ton of young talent on this Gopher team. Sky Uma, go Gophers. So I looked up, and the average age for the teams is 22 for St. Cloud and 21 for the Gophers. And the average height and weight are both in the Gophers' favor. So it just love those arguments about 21-year-old freshmen
and these arguments are not new at all.
Yeah.
I'm less concerned from someone leaving a comment on a YouTube page. More concerned when people like Don Lucia and the entire Big Ten Hockey Conference draft legislation to outlaw 21-year-old freshmen. It's what they did 5-6 years ago.
I forgot about that.
I went back into the archives and read some of that stuff. He should read that himself, because him now representing a conference like the CCHA, which kind of depends on older recruiting, he would learn a thing or two. The whole thing kind of boiled down to, I'm looking out for myself, they're looking out for their self. Mentioned just a very quick gloss over of that. The legislation went nowhere. Their legislation it wasn't actually outlawing 21-year-old freshmen. It was limiting their eligibility. If you came in as a 21-year-old freshman, you can only have 3 years of eligibility.
You can only have 3 years, yep.
And he wanted to basically knock it down. It used to be, according to him, when he was at Fairbanks, which he salted that into his argument quite often to sort of get his little brother points. And he said, well, when I was at Alaska, the age cap for an incoming freshman was 20, and he wants to bring it back down there. What
was it when he was at Colorado College, when he went to the championship game?
He went to the title game with CC. He was at Fairbanks before that for 6-7 years.
That's why it's a hollow comment.
And the Huskies have a couple of 25-year-olds on the team. Fitzgerald, at least one more. Brodzinski is 25. These players, they've had 25-year-olds in the past. I think that was 15-16 is when Lucia made those comments, or made that. They drafted that legislation, I think, in the summer of 2015. Became a talker in the college hockey community for a couple of months.
Well, I was gonna say,
and that was. I remember the Huskies played them down there. I think it was just a 2-gamer at Mariucci. I don't think it was a home and home, but I remember David Morley scored a game winner one of those games, and he was a 25-year-old senior at that point. And so I think that was part of his argument of that. And he's sort of making the same argument that this YouTuber, not as elegantly put it. The thing is, St. Cloud's not breaking any rules. No one they're operating within the rules, and this year is a little different. I mean, Fitzgerald and Brodzinski would not be on the team if it weren't for the COVID exemption. Is a 24-year-old senior any worse than a 25-year-old senior? I think that Crookshank for the Gophers is 24.
Yep.
So you're not breaking any rules, number one. Secondly, nothing is stopping the Gophers from bringing in a 25-year-old or having a 25-year-old senior.
It's just that grasping at straws.
And the last thing I'll say is that's for a lot of folks, for a lot of recruits, a lot of high-end recruits. This is a feature, not a bug. I believe it was Jack Eichel who went on record, wins the Hobie his only year playing with BU, now NHL star. I think he's still injured. I know there's
there's a whole saga going on with Jack Eichel that we don't have time to get into.
Yeah, but I remember his whole point was I could have played juniors. I could have played a lot of different. I had a lot of options. He could have played in the NHL. He did play in the NHL as a 19-year-old. He could have played anywhere as an 18-year-old, and he chose college hockey specifically because he was going to play against older competition. Playing against Canadian juniors, you're playing against as many 16-year-olds that you are against 20-year-olds. He felt that it was a benefit to his development as a player, as a potential pro player, to play against 24, 25-year-olds, because he thought that would improve his skills. And that's not a unique sort of sentiment from especially pro, guys that have pro aspirations. It's specifically a reason that a lot of them choose to play college hockey. So I don't know why we're indulging a dumb YouTube comment. But
you did indulge it for a lot longer than I thought you would.
I anticipate when I did see the roster this year, and I think Will Hammer was 25 last year during the run. You anticipate these kind of arguments, and they're frustrating, and so it's nice to shoot them down when they do come up.
So,
But yeah, getting back to the series.
Yeah, so let's quick, Fenton's, Josh Fenton's comment or statement that NCHC put out. Determined minor penalty or penalties should have been issued in the sequence immediately leading up to the game-winning goal in overtime during the University of Minnesota St. Cloud State contest. NCAA rules interpretations do not allow for judgment calls of a minor penalties to be reviewed through the replay criteria. Disciplinary action of any game officials will be handled internally by the conference office.
This was a first for as far as I'm concerned.
I
don't remember. Certainly, I don't remember the NCHC doing this. I don't know. Maybe the WCHA back in the day did something like this.
I remember this happened when Mike Schmidt was the referee, and he blew 2 calls back to back, but they were on. I know it was. He screwed over St. Cloud State, and the next weekend he screwed over Wisconsin. And this was back in mid-aughts, and I remember the Wisconsin one specifically is because. It was a buzzer beater goal that went in like 0.7 seconds and, in and out of the net, and he called it no goal and then went to video review and apparently just asked for the video review to say just what did the overhead look like at 0.0 seconds, like right at the end. By that time, the puck was already in and out of the net. So WCHA ended up kind of saying, hey, this happened to Mike Schmidt, and I don't think he reffed another game that season.
Which makes more sense if it's a call like that, which is, is it a goal or not? I've never seen a statement, a public statement based on a penalty call. This wasn't like someone shot the puck and it ripped through the net and they didn't call it a goal and then they didn't review it, and it's something like that. I was not expecting to hear any statement from the league. My theory is that the headline of the statement is that a penalty should have been called.
Mike Schmidt played baseball for the Phillies, didn't he?
He did. Hall of Famer.
Okay.
There was a Schmidt.
Yeah. Randy Schmidt. That was his name. Randy Schmidt.
Right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. It was Wisconsin against Denver. WCHA sent a letter. He was also a referee game against St. Cloud State when a Denver goal was allowed to stand despite video evidence of goaltender interference. An apology was also sent to them.
So Denver got the benefit for both of those calls?
Yes.
And that was probably in one of those years that they won the title.
It was
back to back there. What year was this?
2008.
Oh, so this is after that, but anyway, back to my theory on the statement is that the headline is about the missed penalty. I think that his main reason for issuing the statement was to grandstand about how terrible St. Cloud State fans are for littering the rink afterwards.
Yeah, so the statement
because you're not.
Yeah, as NCHC has a policy that outlines acceptable conduct and behavior for all parties taking part of the game. The actions by some fans within the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center at the conclusion of the contest were unacceptable under any circumstance and inconsistent with our mission, vision, and shared values. Endangering student athletes, coaches, staff will not be tolerated. A conference will conduct a review of policies with all member institutions to avoid these in the future. Quote, although it is not and will not become conference protocol to provide public comment on judgment calls made by the game officials, the statement is being issued due to the significant impact on the game's outcome along with the dangerous aftermath.
Yeah, the 5% RPI points, significant impact on the game. Yeah, I think I wouldn't really expect, if there's any sort of discipline for the refs, maybe it's that they don't ref a game in St. Cloud the rest of the year. I don't think that they're going to lose income based on this call, and I don't expect them to.
And, and it's, yeah, and like you said, the point was really to talk about, hey, don't do that, but you don't throw stuff on the ice, which, to be fair, don't throw stuff on the ice. It's dumb.
I'm not
But
endorsing that, but
but I mean, it was clearly get that, but it was like we have to address the elephant in the room, so let's just get that out of the way quickly. And really, it should have just been a non-statement then if you were going to come out with that. I just think just then stick your head in the sand and deal with it internally. And maybe you do talk to Brett Larson about it and say, hey, this should have been. I just want to say from, a background where I was a referee for 1 year. And from the ref's point of view, I know it looks like he was right in front of him, but what happened is that the ref might have been looking at McLaughlin's stick, who again, we didn't talk about him that much earlier, but McLaughlin I thought also had a heck of a series. But his stick was also, kind of on the right side of Perbix. And I think he was looking at that and Perbix going down and thinking the stick wasn't enough to pull him down, which it wasn't. And I don't think the ref maybe saw the jersey tug at all. And that's obviously the damning part. I think if you look at the angle where the ref was and where the jersey tug happened, I think you can make a point where that, in that split second, that's what he didn't see. So he thought it was the stick. And then I could buy that argument at least.
yeah, and if I'm being the most gracious to the ref, I mean, his falling down was not just falling down. I mean, it was a exaggerated, I'm not saying that it was embellished. I think it looked worse than, because I think a part of the factor is he's turning. He's going around
He was on one skate when he was pulled.
Yeah, and I think that if they're going straight forward, he doesn't go down in such a parenthetically shaped motion, if that makes sense. And so maybe it looked worse to the ref's eye than not. I mean, you do have another ref on the ice who could have seen the tug better if he's positioned differently. That is a case where a guy in the corner might have been too close to have seen the play. I don't know where the other ref is. I don't even know which ref it was, Egan or Stearns.
Stearns was in front. So Stearns
he's the one that made the no call and then the motion afterwards.
Yep.
Okay. Another thing I'll say, this might not be popular, but so Perbix is back up relatively quickly. It's a couple seconds goes by as you say McLaughlin looks back, kind of in anticipation of being called for the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
But then he realizes it's game on. So there's a couple of seconds there. At that point, the third Gopher player must have been playing,
Sammy
way
Walker.
back in his. No, I'm saying the third player, whoever their third guy on the ice, other than Walker and McLaughlin.
Oh,
he's not in the screen. He's not in the play at this point. You look at the replay. At that point, Perbix is back up on his feet, clearly in the play. It's not like he's out for the count. It's a 2-on-3 for the Gophers at that point. Huskies kind of play beehive hockey. They all go towards McLaughlin, leaving Walker completely exposed, and he walks in for the game-winning goal. 2-on-3 there. I'm frustrated. It's almost like the Huskies kind of said, "Well, we'll let the bad call beat us."
I saw that on Twitter, and I don't necessarily agree, because I bet, yes, it is beehive hockey, and it was very much like a panic, but that's how 3-on-3 is structured. That's the whole gimmick of 3-on-3 hockey, is that you want these types of situations to happen because you want mistakes to happen, because you want goals. That's the whole structure behind it, and I don't agree with people saying that the Huskies gave up on the play, because, there were two Huskies right around the puck trying to get it out, and they were thinking, if we can turn this over, it's a 3-on-1 going the other way. And McLaughlin was able, I don't know if it was, an amazing play by him, or if it was a lucky bounce, or a combination of both, but he was able to get it to Walker, who Walker's not going to miss from there against anybody. But it's just, kind of the frustrations I have with 3-on-3 hockey, and it's like, people say, like, oh, it's not a shootout's not a way to determine games because it's not a team. And it's like, how is 3-on-3 any different? It's just you just might have to pass once. It's not even that, it's not that different of a gimmick in my eyes that everybody seems to love.
Completely agreed. We're dovetailing into all of my rants here. I hate 3-on-3. I hate it at the NHL level. I hate it at college. I hate it at any level. It is a gimmick. That's what it is. We don't play hockey with 2 forwards and 1 defenseman throughout 60 minutes of regulation. I'm glad that we're on the same page here because I think that we are in the minority here. Keep hearing, God, 3-on-3 is so fun. It's just back and forth, 2-on-1s and whatnot. It's manufactured fun. It's engineered fun. It's fake fun to me. And I realize that might sound like a dinosaur, but I hate it. And
get off my lawn.
Yeah, you're right. You're right that it's better than a shootout. But that's kind of like saying horse manure smells better than cow manure. They're both manure when you boil down to it.
Did you grow up on a farm? Do you know the difference?
I did
smell
not.
The difference?
I did not. I have been through the state of Iowa though.
That actually
we just alienated our whole Iowa listener fan base.
The one person who's a big fan of the Sioux City Musketeers right now is really upset with us. So yeah, I didn't. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to comment when it comes to Friday's game. I was not able to watch it. I had a wonderful date night, actually, with my wife. Parents came down to babysit. I did think about maybe asking her if we wanted to go instead to a bar to watch the game. But instead we watched, we went out to a movie. We watched No Time to Die. So I'm a big Bond fan. So
yeah, as we touched on last week, maybe you'll give me a review at the end. We don't want to get too sidetracked.
Sidetrack's like the name of this podcast. I mean,
I know. We're going all over the place. No, Friday was a good game. Like I said, it's the Duluth formula. Get outplayed, convert on your turnovers, and then Renak was the star of the show. And he was keeping that up. That the stack in the pads on Saturday, you saw
that windmill goal, that windmill save that he made when he stacked the pads, and that was just
at that point,
the Gopher scored like 20 seconds later. But
yeah, no, it's the next shot because you're thinking, God, this guy is unstoppable, and then they come down and they score on a goal. I'm sure he wants to have back. Certainly not as flashy of a play as the pad stack, but. And I thought the third goal for the Huskies, or for the Gophers too, was kind of a light one. So it was, but I mean, I thought he stole the show on Friday, and he was not the reason that the result ended as it did on Saturday. So another good weekend for Renak.
Very, very good weekend. I thought he was really strong on Saturday. Like I said, none of the goals were really his fault. There was that, a little bit of a leaker, but that's also a heck of a shot. That I believe that one was that Bryce's shot, I think. So that's, I thought he continued his really strong play. One thing that kind of caught my eye as well is during one of the replays of the game-winning goal on Saturday is, the overhead feed. And there was a time where Renak was almost going to smash his stick over the crossbar, but he did a check swing and it didn't actually do it, and was just kind of let out a big exhale and whatnot. I found that was kind of telling in a way that, like I said, I believe last week is, when he makes a save and whatnot, he's just very calm, drops the puck, pushes it over, and even in that scenario, he was able to kind of get calm, and it gives that little thing kind of gives me a little bit of relaxation, I guess is the word, but it makes me feel good about, him overcoming some of the issues that he's had. in the past where he lets in a goal and then everything kind of snowballs, especially, during his tenure. If he lets in a goal early, it can kind of snowball and get out of hand really quickly. But the way he acted, even in that situation right at the end, where he was able to kind of collect himself and be like, I don't know, zen in that in that second and whatnot, that gives me a lot of hope here for the future. So when you say um, you feel like the Huskies might kind of cling on to this, um, being screwed over, that kind of mentality. Overall, are you not as like where do you stand right now with the Huskies? I mean, we just had two heck of a series against two very good teams, so we can't let that kind of go unnoticed. But
It's a good transition because I was kind of going there. I kind of my initial reactions after the weekend was I am kind of getting a little concerned about the scoring and the scoring depth. But at the same time, when thinking about it more, you did play two top-notch teams the last couple of weeks, and maybe the scoring is not there. I think that the team defense is certainly better. And I was going to shout out that Sahlquist, Molinar, and Spalacy line on Friday. I thought was excellent. Josh Lutke played both games. And from a defensive standpoint, I thought he was impressive. From a compete level.
I also thought Bushy was impressive too.
Yeah. From a compete level and from a defensive structure angle, a lot to like. And that's not surprising because I think that's Larson's MO. Or
and Shayak.
His preferred, and Shayak's preferred style of play. I'm just, again, willing to chalk it up to playing tougher opponents. And I think starting with Wisconsin, which doesn't look like the Wisconsin of last year, for instance. And then once you get into the start of the conference schedule, which you got CC and right off the bat, I'm hoping. And again, this is a team that put up 12 goals in the first game. So, granted, a lesser opponent, St. Thomas, but this team is capable of scoring a bunch of goals. But since that 12-2 game, 2 goals, 0 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals. And you had Henches out for 2.5 of those games. Came back on Saturday and played quite well, I thought. Scored the first goal, right? Believe so.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're dealing with some injuries. But at the same time, too, this is the same team basically coming back from last year. We're not talking about a bunch of guys left, all your scoring left, and we're trying to get chemistry established. These guys have played with each other for a full season, for the most part. Played on lines together for at least full season or seasons. So that does concern me a bit. But again, like we said last week about Mietin and Cran, I'll give them a month to see how things are before we make a bold statement like, is this team for real or where's the offense or any of those kind of bold statements. I'm still going to stick to that. But my concern level is heightened a little bit. How about yours?
Yeah, it's what I'm happy about, at least, is team defense is doing incredibly well. Like you said, Riddick is also being incredibly stout, and I think the scoring will come because I've been impressed with, obviously, Nolan Walker has had a heck of a start to the season. I thought Okabe played incredibly well as well on Saturday. I thought he was kind of just all over the ice. Kind of reminds me of like a Johnny Swanson type player, but somebody I think can score a little bit more than Swanson could. So I think that's going to come. But it's still, I'm still a little bit frustrated, with that we're not seeing just a little bit more productive. And like I said, we still don't have a guy that doesn't have that game breaking ability. And Easton is, I don't think was as effective on Saturday as he was kind of earlier in the season. So that's just kind of my thoughts. And obviously, it might take a little bit for him to kind of still get the training and get his everything kind of underneath him as far as the conditioning goes. So that's, it just makes me feel good that at least the defensive side of it, everything is top notch, and probably kind of one of our best, I would say, just overall team defenses that we've had in probably many years. We've had very good pairings, top pairings, and then we'll have, maybe a second good pairing in there, or at least one of them that's dynamic, and the other one is, all right and kind of plays, that we can kind of piece in there. But I think everybody, if we dress 7 defensemen, usually we have, and been able to rotate them all in. I thought all of them have been doing fantastic, and I praise Zemer too. And I don't know if he played on Friday. I don't think he did, but
I don't think so.
So, just to know that we have that type of depth, that's a good place to be. So,
and that's going to keep you in games. If you're stout defensively, that can paper over some of the offensive struggles. Whereas if you can score a little bit but give up a bunch, that's not as good of a recipe. So, yeah, like I said, the 2-1 score on Friday, that's a win for Renneck and the defensive core, and you have to convert on those chances that you do get. For years it seemed like the Huskies, even in the high flying Motzko, and then that first Larson year, it seemed like even then breakaways, it was just a struggle for the Huskies to score breakaway goals. Wasn't it several years, getting back to horse manure shootouts, several years when they started those shootouts, the Huskies didn't even score a goal in those shootouts until like the 3rd or 4th year that they were doing them.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see Cranola scored that penalty shot in the tournament last year, and he picks his spot here and goes in and makes a nice move and scores the first goal on Friday.
That was a smooth goal. That was nice.
Yeah, it's nice to know that these guys can finish a breakaway chance. And so, yeah, if you're opportunistic like that and are solid on the back end, it's going to keep you in games. Let's just hope to see that the offense starts to click here. And maybe we can use that as a transition to previewing the Wisconsin series coming up this weekend.
And if you ever want to know what Brett Larson is feeling, check out his Twitter page. But he's not going to tweet from it, but you'll definitely find it in the likes section. So it is, he'll like a lot of tweets about about what he feels and whatnot. So, sponsored segment, Go Huskies Woo, the premier smack talker of Husky hockey on the Twitters. Player of the weekend. Do you want to guess on who we picked as the player of the weekend, or should I just tell you?
I'm gonna say he didn't go with Renneck twice in a row.
Correct.
Am I right there?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he. I don't know. Tell me.
We went with the NCHC Rookie of the Week, Jack Peart.
Well, there you go. I think that's a good call. I didn't know. I didn't realize that he was the NCHC Player of the Week, or was it Rookie of the Week?
Rookie of the Week.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, he took a penalty early in the Friday game. I'm like, here we go again. He's kind of cutting corners, taking some dumb penalties. But after that, I was thoroughly impressed with him.
Yep.
And so that's the kind of, the progress that is made from especially true freshmen, as is the case with Pert, sometimes there's that learning curve, and I'm not saying he's fully surmounted that. But I think playing the tougher competition right off the bat here has kind of strengthened him and made him a better player quicker than if they were to play, I don't know, 3 series against Atlantic hockey teams or something like that. I'm impressed.
I don't know. Knowing our history against Atlantic hockey teams, I don't know if you want to throw them under the bus.
And they Bentley beat BC 6-2. A couple of weeks ago, they had 3 wins against Big Ten teams. So the Atlantic hockey is not. That league has definitely risen over the years, and they're not the easy out that they once were. So not to throw shade on an entire conference of teams, but I guess I did.
But very quietly, I mean, Pierre has 4 points in 6 games, leading defenseman, and I thought he played. Like I said, I only saw Saturday's game, but I thought he played incredibly well that day or that game. So I think that's a good pick and probably who I would have gone with as well. So,
alrighty, well,
switching Wisconsin,
old friend,
in my opinion, I thought Barry Alvarez created the Big Ten Hockey Network or the Big Ten Hockey Conference so that Wisconsin didn't have to travel to the towns or lose to, I guess, colleges like St. Cloud and whatnot anymore. So to see them come here was a shock to me, and I'm kind of excited for the series. Probably more so than kind of your normal fan would be.
No, I am too. I believe, they haven't played at all since the conference split. So this would have been 2013 in the Final Five, which Wisconsin beat them that year. Joel Rumpel was the goalie. That would have been the last time that these two teams played. Lots of things have changed in the interim. Wisconsin there took a bit of a hit as a program moving into that new conference, as it turned out. I believe they won the conference. Or no, they didn't. No, Gophers won it the first year, but they made the tournament the first year. Wisconsin did. But then the bottom fell out. Eves gets fired after a couple of single-digit win seasons. And Tony Granato takes over, former NHL player and head coach. I was a bit surprised when he took that job. But, a Wisconsin alum, and he took a couple of years of getting used to the college game. But last year, we're a number 1 seed in the tournament. Crapped out against Bemidji State. Had the Hobie Baker winner in Cole Caulfield, who's now with the Montreal Canadiens. And so last year was the first postseason run for them in quite some time. And as is kind of typical with Big Ten teams, especially the main players there, I guess they're all traditional powers, but it seems that how that conference has evolved is it's become a sort of freshman showcase league. Bring in top talent, and they're gonna last a year or two, and then they're gonna bolt to the NHL. And because of that, you seem to have some programs like Wisconsin and Michigan State, for instance, that have struggled towards the bottom of the standings in years past. Obviously, Wisconsin had a good year last year. But so far this year, they lost their top 4 scorers from last year. Caulfield, obviously, number 1. They had a couple of 40-point guys or 35-plus point guys. And Weissbach and Holloway also left or graduated or didn't return, at least. So, and it seems like that's what they're struggling with so far. They got handled pretty well against Michigan Tech at home, losing a couple of 5-1 and 5-2 games there, and then had to struggle against an Army team over this last weekend, winning a 4-1 game that was essentially a 2-1 game with a couple of empty netters, and then a 1-0 game. So we're talking about St. Cloud offensive issues. It seems like Wisconsin is struggling to find new scoring to replace the old scoring. I'm expecting that they are going to be a step down in competition from the Gophers. That's partly to give the Gophers credit because I was impressed by their play this weekend. But with the experience factor is definitely going to play a role here this weekend. So yeah, I know that we're always picking sweeps, and pretty positive when it comes to Husky predictions here. And it's always tough to you never want to say that the Huskies are going to lose, right? It's kind of we're almost kind of bound to.
Well, we don't lose. Even when we lose, it's actually just really a glorified tie.
Right, 45%ers. But I'm much more confident this weekend that the Huskies, if the Huskies play the way they played against the Gophers against Wisconsin, I'll sound the red alarm at that point. I'm expecting good things this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at Wisconsin has only been averaging 2 goals a game. Their power play is clicking at 9% right now. Their penalty kills at 70%. So this has got sweep kind of written all over it. And if anything less than that, I'd be absolutely shocked.
And disappointed.
And incredibly disappointed.
I want to put a high bar on this team. Yeah, this is kind of a statement weekend. Especially after an emotional ending to the Minnesota series, there always is that possibility of a letdown the following week. I sure hope not to see that.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to kind of watch. You got home against Wisconsin, and then at Colorado College in their new digs, and just kind of see kind of the difference in competition that we're going to face, and kind of really gauge where St. Cloud State is at. Because I'm just not expecting that much out of Wisconsin, and you can tell how top heavy and how much Caulfield really carried that team.
Right, I'm excited to see Roman Ashan, brother of former Husky Jack Ashan. They have another brother, Grant, I'm going to say, who's committed to St. Cloud. So we're not quite done with the Ashan name, assuming that the St. Cloud recruit will arrive in St. Cloud in time. But
the good news is with that name, we know how to pronounce it.
Yes,
Hiert.
I'm still going Rush style.
You're still going Neil Peart, huh?
Yeah, but until we hear otherwise, which I do. I mean, I listened to KBSC again, and it seemed like they were going kind of back and forth. Peart and Pert and Peart. There's like a 2-syllable version of it.
Again, the pronunciation guide doesn't do any favors because it's PE/AR/T. And I don't think I've ever had a pronunciation guide where just a consonant, just one T. It's just ridiculous.
If you're listening and you have some sort of access to the players, do us a favor and confirm that pronunciation if you could. Ask him how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I mean,
go right to the horse's mouth.
We did get some good traction from the KVSC announcers after, we gave them a little bit of a shout out, or I would say you gave them the shout out. I kind of just amplified the message, but you definitely gave them a shout out that they were remarkable and.
Another good weekend, I thought, for them.
Yeah.
I listened to both games. I synced up the audio and the video. I'm guaranteed, even though I didn't listen to a second of it, guaranteed it was better than Ben Clymer and whoever he was doing the game with on Friday night. So, yeah, they're still impressive. They even had they had 2 on ice guys, or ice level commentators.
Did they have intermission interviews?
No, they went back. They like go back to the studio. There was like a couple of other. I think those are two other guys.
Okay.
I don't know. Usually in the intermissions, I'm taking bathroom breaks. So I don't really listen to that.
Hate with a passion intermission interviews. It doesn't matter who's giving it. It doesn't matter what the score is. I never learn anything. Hockey players never say anything interesting. It's absolutely terrible to listen to intermission interviews, and I wish they would die in a fire.
Okay, what's worse, intermission interviews or in-game coach interviews?
Oh man,
I hate those two.
Those are two sides of the same coin. At least,
and you could tell the coach why the coach would hate to do that. It's
yeah,
like, I mean, I can see coach in the intermission maybe. Even I don't really get much out of interviews. Period, but. Don't interrupt him in the middle of a game flow. Like that seems to be an imposition.
NHL on NBC used to always do that, and it was always just kind of your same generic answers as well. Because yeah, I hate those too. At least with those, you get some sense of a little bit of passion, depending on what it is. But if you got someone like, what's his name? Like Mike Babcock or whatnot, it's like you're not getting anything out of them. Just save us all 30 seconds. Not only that, but like TV and radio sometimes can do just the statements instead of questions, or just talk about this or anything. Yeah. And it's like it seemed like you guys were really able to turn up the pressure right there. Yeah, we were able to turn up the pressure and kind of get some shots forward. We got to just kind of keep that up going into the next period and hopefully come out with a W. Boom. Every intermission interview ever. I just did it for you.
Copy and paste.
Stupid.
Well, do you have a prediction on scores this weekend?
I'm thinking Okabe is going to have a big weekend, and I think Chase Brand. I think he's going to break out one of these. I've been kind of a fan of how he's playing. As well, but I just don't think that goal scoring touch is there. But I think he's going to get one this weekend, so that's going to be my major prediction.
Yeah, let's get Okabe on the board. He may have scored in that 12-2 game. I kind of forget so many goals in that game, but it feels like he's had his chances. He's not been a invisible player by any means, but he's been stymied the last 2 weekends. So yeah, I'd like to wake him up, or at least just wake up the score sheet with his name on it.
Yeah, he scored 2 goals, 1 goal each game against St. Thomas, but that's it. But I felt like he's been good and kind of all over the puck.
Oh yeah.
So you've been noticing over here. Couple of Twitter questions that I actually remembered to post this time. So let me. Obviously, good friend of the show, Dan Jacobson. Best pregame bar / food in Dinkytown. And so I had to kind of actually go back to last time I went actual downtown, kind of in the Dinkytown area. And I was a big fan of Sally's. And I don't know if that's still open, but that was always kind of my go-to place was Sally's Bar and Grill. Is kind of where we started that.
I think I've been there. I'm not overly familiar with Dinkytown. I know one of the series we took a bus from one of the bars down there. I can't even remember what the name was. I will say when I went to a fair amount of Gopher football games back in the day because I had a cousin that played linebacker for him.
Oh.
And this would have been late aughts, mid to late. He was like 05. He was a year older than me, but I think he was redshirted. I think he was 05 to 08. Yeah, because he was there the.
Was that Brewster?
He was there the first Brewster year. So he was there. Mason brought him in, and then so he played 3 years. He was a starter. John Shevlin, shout out. He started at least, I think, the last 3 years. He was middle linebacker. So anyway, I would go to a fair amount of games there, and a couple of uncles and my parents. It was kind of a Reese family outing when they would play those games. we would always go. It's not in Dinkytown. I don't even know what part of the cities it's in, but it was a bar called Manning's, not Manny's, not the
I was
high-end
gonna say,
steakhouse.
ooh, you going ritzy here?
No, it was a more of a divey place called Manning's. It was like off like Energy Plaza or whatever that road is. It's I think it's closer to like the state fairgrounds. If I have my geography right, but they had the thing there is they had what they called the bird baths. It was like a 32-ounce schooner glass of beer, but it was it looked like the top of the Stanley Cup almost. So we'd have a couple of those after those games, and they just have greasy hamburgers or whatever. So the main memories I have of post game or pre game bar celebrations, it would have been at Manning's. But yeah, let's go Sally's. That's our official.
Like I said, I want to say it closed, but I don't really remember 100%. Do you have I don't know if favorite is the right word, but do you have a specific memory when it comes to a Minnesota St. Cloud State kind of series or game down at Mariucci?
I watched mainly Gopher wins, unfortunately, which was unfortunate. Yeah, I remember I do remember going there. This would have been in Lucia's lean years. There was a couple years. Remember the year that they lost to Anchorage in the playoffs, and they were not making the tournament at all. It was in one of those years that the Huskies they did not play well and they lost. But I just remember that we were sitting next to or in front of a row behind whatnot of it was like this older 60s couple in their 60s, and the woman is cross stitching during the game, and and whenever the Gophers scored, it was like a 5-1 game or something. It was almost she was like bothered to like, okay, we got to get up and clap, and it just kind of embodied the feel of the program at that point. It was just apathy, and that building was not full at all, and even though they won the game, they were just going through the motions. So I do remember
there was a girl. There was a woman behind the benches in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I want to say Pittsburgh maybe. But she would like knit, and it was always right behind the coaches, so she'd always be knitting, but she'd be watching the game and she'd be into it. And I remember she got a lot of flack because it's like, oh, you don't come to the hockey to knit, and they actually interviewed her, and it's just she gets so nervous, like she fidgets, and so it's just a way to keep her hands busy while she's watching the game. So I thought that was kind of interesting because you talk to people who knit or whatnot. I mean, it's just second nature to them, on what to do. So it's that's anytime I think of people doing some type of activity like that, that's kind of always the first thing I thought. Maybe she was so into it. But if she was eye rolling, when goals were scored or whatnot, maybe that's not the case. Maybe her husband dragged her.
Yeah, I can't say that I was at, a great. I remember, the 8-7 game. I was not there watching it on TV though.
I was. But that game.
Really, I would have died and gone to heaven if I was at that game. That was kind of the game that really cemented my Husky fandom. It was. I still remember watching the game with roommates. Yeah, would have been sophomore.
I don't think there's ever been a feeling. I don't think I'll ever feel about hockey that as I do with that game. Like that game just encompasses everything, and I'm not like if it's 8-7. Obviously, there was sloppy play, and sometimes sloppy play isn't fun to watch, but just the emotions of everything going through and just kind of the whole build-up where the Gophers were hugely favored, and you could tell that the Huskies team was on the right track but not quite there yet. Huskies needing to make the tournament, Huskies needed to make the get the win to make the tournament, and then
Well, they needed to win needed to win the WCHA tournament, the final 5 to get in. They did not. They lost to Dakota.
They lost to Dakota.
Yeah, that would have been their last game of the season had they not won.
Yeah, except for the third place, the lovely WCHA third place game. But
I suppose they would have had to play that game.
But yeah, that back and forth 8-7 game was obviously something that, I mean, I don't want to sound like it's hyperbole or anything, but I'll take that game to my grave. Just like I said, the atmosphere, range of emotion. I mean, it was at that time probably the biggest crowd for a college hockey game in Minnesota.
That would have been the peak of attendance. 05-06, I think, was the peak year across college hockey. But I think it was that year, or maybe it was 05. The Gophers played Mankato at the X during the regular season. I think Mankato they were one of their home team.
Games. Yep.
And we saw this with St. Cloud and St. Thomas. They drew like 4,000 fans there. That Mankato Gopher game, a sold out 18,000 in the building that night. That era ended for a variety of factors, but the Big Ten split is really what killed that. I mean, the recession, 08 recession, had a factor in it as well. But even that last true Final 5, 2013, that was still sold out X. Yep. And
That had the perfect storm, though, also of teams, but all of the Minnesota teams ended up losing. Like, that had the makings of being just end it with a bang. And then
Wisconsin and CC,
Denver, and I can't remember who the other team was, but it was just probably North Dakota. But that was annoying.
But I have not been to the X since they've hosted the NCHC tournament. They're not selling that building out though yet, have they?
No.
So I pine for those days of full buildings and just this weekend too. My dad, back in the day we'd be back and forth sniping about he's a Gopher fan and and I'd be go Huskies woo, and he'll be like Gopher Nation, and it's just I can't even bother him really to get in. He didn't watch any of these games, and I'm like, I said Saturday game, it's on Fox 9. I'm fishing, and so it's frustrating. Although he really enjoys that, and I'm not saying that he needs to watch it or not, but it's frustrating because it was a really fun, and even with Wisconsin coming in this weekend, we have our set of memories when Huskies and Badgers would play. My brother went to Wisconsin, so we went to a couple of games. This is when I was season ticket holder, but he'd come up for a Wisconsin St. Cloud game. He's not huge into the Badger hockey team, but we'd still it was still fun to get together those games, and it was not one of the Huskies' top rivals, but it was always interesting playing Wisconsin, and so this may be a kind of a rush of nostalgia just because we haven't seen Wisconsin on the schedule in so long, and back to the WCHA days, and to think about those days, we can kind of go down memory lane for a little bit.
Yeah. Just to kind of crawl back though to that 06 Final 5. Then North Dakota, St. Cloud State in the championship game. I remember there was a tweet from Rusty Kath, who used to do like the in-game entertainment. He said that
for who?
For the XL. Like, he was hired by the XL to do
he's doing Twins stuff for WCCO, and I listened to him over the summer. I'm like, God, I recognize that name, but I don't know how. So thank you for
for
connecting that dot.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I think he tweeted out something like, the atmosphere is amazing. It's like a recommended 0.08 blood alcohol content to get in.
Yeah.
for the St. Cloud State North Dakota game. And then Huskies score, 5 minutes in, 3 minutes in, or something like that, like right away. So I'm like this could be happening, and then I think North Dakota rattles off the next two in like 20 seconds or something like that. And I was like, oh.
There was another championship game where the Huskies scored like 2 goals in the first minute. And then I think that was 2010. And then I don't think that 2-0 lead lasted 5 minutes. There was a couple of those near misses against Dakota in the title game in that era.
Yeah, that was always frustrating. I mean, North Dakota always,
Especially that 06 year, because you needed to win that game to get in to the tournament. In 2010, the Huskies had cemented a spot in the tournament. So that game was not as important. You still would love to have beaten North Dakota, but
you always love beating North Dakota.
More on the line in
yep,
that 06 game.
Yep, 2010.
Was it in the first minute?
Yeah. Garrett
Raboyne. Was it Mosey?
40 seconds, and then David Eddy, 55 seconds.
For some reason I thought Mosey was in there, but
I will say, like, my favorite kind of memory going down to Mariucci, it's kind of capped off with a sweep of the Gophers, where St. Cloud won at home 5-1, and that was with Brocklehurst, Frazie's last game and wearing the University of Minnesota when he.
No, that was another year. I was in the building for that one.
Yeah,
what, are you talking
07?
Frazie's, I think, was 08. It was a different weekend, I'm positive. I know what you're talking about. I believe that 07 series, because this is still when Geffert was on the Huskies.
Okay.
There's like 10 minutes of highlights on YouTube of that game that you're talking about, the 07 game. Take a look at that, Husky fans, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Because talk about the atmosphere in that building.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and then I went to the game at Mariucci where the Huskies won 5-3. And I remember because me and my buddy, we went to Home Depot beforehand to buy brooms. And try to carry them in. Obviously, they took it away from us. But for a while, we were just sweeping like the logo when you walk into Mariucci. And then like sweeping right in front of Gophers fans as they're walking. Oh, hold on, let me just sweep that up for you right there. Quick. Sat next to the student section. They're just razzing me. I'm razzing back. And yeah, St. Cloud State ends up winning 5-3. That I'll always remember because I mean at that like Huskies Gophers, like both teams were incredibly good those years. So it was a lot of fun. That was a memorable series for sure. So that's my best bar and pregame spot at Dinky Town.
We covered all the bases there.
Yep. Who would win in a fight, Jeff Finger or God?
The question is wrong because Jeff Finger is God.
So that's easy answer right there. So.
That's our dose of blasphemy.
Right? Rumor has it, though, that St. Cloud State is honoring the 20th anniversary of the Final Five championship team. Obviously in 01. And Jeff Finger was on that team. So hopefully Jeff Finger will get back to the building. And
so they're going to have like all the guys come back?
I mean, all of them that are available and probably want to. I would imagine we'd get like 5. I don't know how strong the alumni support there is for that group. I don't know if Arneson's clamoring to come back. I don't think a lot of those players like Craig Gopher for various reasons, but I would love to see it if they did. Hardigan was still robbed for Hobie, so
it's just kind of, I don't know, you're a reunion for a team that didn't win an NCAA tournament game. I mean, it was their first big year.
Yeah.
Won the Final Five and
lose to Michigan. So.
Was that the was it one of them was that Hardigan hit the post?
Yeah.
Was it that year?
No,
Or is it,
I don't know if he hit the
was
post.
That the year
even.
after?
I think he just deked and missed it in that entirely. I don't think he even got that close where he hit the post. Oh, that's frustrating. Why'd you bring that up? That's depressing.
Yeah, sorry.
So, perfect. Yep. We can split or sweep for the St. Cloud State. That's kind of my prediction there. I would assume your prediction as well. If we don't sweep, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Set the over/under at 8.5 goals for the Huskies.
8.5
for this
goals.
weekend.
God, I would hope the over, but I might take the under. I don't even.
Okay,
know.
I'll go the over.
Okay, perfect. Controversy. We'll date. So
You liking that wine?
right. So perfect. Well, that about does her. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. Go Huskies! Woo!
Woo!